Action. You're
Hello.
frozen. Hello. How are you today, my love?
Wonderful. Wonderful. I got coffee. I have no complaints. I'm wondering
Good.
why I'm here. What am I doing
Yeah. Yeah. We are starting, this is our first ever All Your Heroes Are Dead, episode 1.
All my
Season
heroes or just in general? Everyone's heroes.
All Your Heroes.
That's,
Just what the title says.
oh my God.
And maybe, so yes, so no, it wouldn't be, maybe, yes, but probably are mostly your heroes. But there are probably other people's heroes too, maybe, who knows?
That's very
So
Ricky Gervais,
this,
by the way. That answer. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, all right.
I love it.
Well, so basically I am going to be retelling, the life of a famous person, most
Okay.
likely in music and arts, influences larger than life personalities, I'm sure. But yeah, so people that I think, their stories should be retold again. So
Okay.
it's a retelling of that. And today we are going to be talking about Marvin Gaye Jr.
All right. Yeah.
So,
Huge fan.
yeah,
Huge fan.
huge fan. So Marvin Gaye Jr., yeah. He was born in Washington, D.C. on April 2nd.
Okay.
April 2nd.
Oh,
Let's-
your birthday.
Let's yes, write it in.
Revel in that.
We share a birthday. I
Awesome.
feel like I knew this, but I don't know. For some reason, when I was researching, it dawned on me that we are birthday twins. But I'm sure it was some interesting fact that my dad told me as a teenager, and
Mhm.
I don't really pay attention, but now look at me giving useless facts to our kids
Beautiful.
that they don't care about every day practically.
The second. It's a good day. Good day to
Yeah.
be born.
April 2nd, 1939. So he is exactly 40 years older than me. I was born 40 years later. Yeah, so he's referred to as the Prince of Soul and
Yes.
put out such hits as What's Going On, Let's Get It On, Sexual Healing, I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Of
The
course.
list goes on and on.
What's the duet?
So yes,
Ain't No
yes,
Mountain.
Yep. Those his singing and duet
Okay.
partner, Tammy Terrell.
Personal favorite, Symphony, which wasn't his most popular song, but definitely one of my
That's a good one.
favorites.
It's a good one. And then there's what's the one that went into the lawsuit?
I used to
Got
go out and party. I used
to
to
give
go
it
out
up.
to
I think.
parties. Got to give it up. Yeah. I won't sing it right now. I'm not warmed up, but
Oh, okay. I used to go to home. That's how it goes.
that's the one.
All right. So Marvin's home life. Let's talk about that first. So Marvin
Okay.
Jr. Grew up with his 3 siblings, his mother, Alberta, and Marvin Gaye Sr. Now, Marvin Gaye Sr. was a preacher in the Hebrew Pentecostal church and very abusive to his Alberta, to his wife and the kids.
Kind of
You know,
remember something like that.
yeah, do you? I mean, so that's a good point. We were alive, I think, when, the whole story of how Marvin Gaye died was, happened.
Right.
I don't remember much of it, but doing my research, I thought we could start with the home life. And I really didn't realize that, his dad was this abusive person. So, I mean, Alberta, the wife, his mother once said that Marvin Sr. didn't, dare I say, didn't like him, hated his son before Marvin Jr. was even born. So, yeah, gives you kind of an idea of how
Imagine.
awful,
Yeah.
how
Born
awful
into
his
that
life was
situation.
going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then my research also noted that, while Marvin Sr., enforced a very strict moral code as a preacher, that he instilled into his 4 children, probably beat it into them, quite literally. He was also a cross-dresser
Oh,
and pretty much an alcoholic himself.
wow. I
So,
didn't know this cross dress.
yeah. So, and he was known to be a womanizer. He cross-dressed. He drank heavily. Kind of all the things that you wouldn't expect a preacher
Right. Wow.
in a church to be. But yeah, so that was a big aha moment.
Yeah, that's
And
I did not know that. That throws me a little bit. Was it like the name?
right, right. So it's like, I mean, obviously you and I have the same philosophy. Like, you do you, don't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
It's all good. But
But he was
hip,
literally hurting people, like beating up his kids. And,
yeah, exactly. And he was being completely hypocritical, and that's something, like that's just wrong, obviously.
yeah.
So I mean, clearly there was some mental health issues going
Sure.
on, you know and obviously something that wasn't really a topic back then, or at least that people didn't openly
Sure.
address.
That's very different than now.
So
Agreed.
um and there was also speculation or reports that I saw that noted that Marvin Sr. May have been jealous of Marvin Jr.'s musical
Success.
talent, yeah, and his overall success. Exactly, yeah. So you know it's
Shame.
it's just it's a rough, hard, time, life to go through, I
It's
guess.
ugly. It's ugly because I think for me as a parent, to I just want my kids to be successful. I would never envy their success or their talents. I would encourage it. So that's the complete opposite of what a father is supposed to do. It's sad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know. So, needless to say, Marvin Jr.'s home life was horrible.
Yeah.
There was just years of resentment built up against his father, naturally. And but despite all of this, the abusive home life, where they lived too, there was a lot of violence on the streets.
Right.
He still found a way to find peace in music and would sing, even at his father's church, was like part of like a boy band, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
called the New
Yeah.
Moonglows.
Okay.
Have you heard of them?
No, but it makes sense. It's not necessarily a boy band, but I know what you're saying. Like groups of that era were like vocalist groups, and they
Right?
were
Yeah.
hybrid soul pop. I wouldn't call it pop, but yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, the New Moonglows. And this was before he, joining Motown. So
Okay.
um, he also learned to play the piano and drums.
Hmm. I
So,
knew that.
which actually, you did know that?
Yes, drumming was how he broke into Motown. Yeah.
Exactly. He actually, that's where he started in Motown.
Hmm.
Once him and the founder, the singer, I'm sorry, the founder of the New Moonglows, Harvey Fuqua,
Hmm.
they caught the attention of Barry Gordy Jr., who signed them to Motown.
Awesome. Life
Um,
changed from
and
that moment.
and yeah, so and another fun fact, you knew about the drums. But he was literal Motown family. So he actually married Barry's older sister,
Yes.
Anna Gordy. Did you
Actually,
know that?
I didn't know who he married exactly, but I knew stars.
Yeah. So he married a Gordy. And so yeah, so as the drummer, Marvin Jr. was a session drummer for
Mhm.
Motown for legends like Stevie Wonder. Although back then he was little Stevie
Little
Wonder.
Stevie.
Yeah. And the Supremes, the Marvelettes, and Martha and the Vandellas.
Yeah,
He was a Yeah, he was a session drummer.
yeah, it's
So
amazing.
and then Marvin Gaye Jr. actually broke into the top 40 with his own solo single, Hitchhike, back in 1962.
Huh, I didn't know
Have you
that.
heard of Hitchhike?
I've not heard Hitchhike.
I didn't either.
Must have
I
been
I listened to it.
yeah.
It's pretty catchy.
Was it catchy? I
Yeah,
better look it up.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I didn't know a lot about the Motown early era of Marvin Gaye's career, but I knew his roots were there. I know, heard it to the grapevine, all those things. Those were kind of what claim to fame's before he went on his own to what, CBS, or I can't remember what label he went to, Columbia or
Yeah.
something.
It,
But
yeah.
that's when
I think it was Columbia.
the sexual healing era started. For me, that's the era I cared about the most,
Yeah.
as a songwriter.
Hmm.
But I love
Well,
it all.
here,
Love hearing all this.
let's listen to a little clip of Hitchhike. Can you hear that?
Oh, I like that baritone sax. Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's good.
We'll dig it. That
So
could
yeah,
be converted to a ska song. Actually, it's pretty sick.
totally. Put it on reggae-ish. Let's do it. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we all know, like you said, Marvin Gaye's successes in Motown throughout the 60s. He turned out hits like I Heard It Through the Grapevine, which became Motown's best selling single of the 1960s.
Yes, I knew that.
And did you?
Yeah, because um, I just saw some special about how I think it was Barry Gordy and Smokey.
Smokey?
It was a documentary, and they were talking about how I think "Heard It Through the Grapevine" went through like 5 different versions, different artists trying to record it, and when he redid his way, it was kind of eye opening. They were like, "Oh crap, let's roll with this for sure."
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, it's a good song. He and singing partner Tammy, I always say Terrell. Is it Terrell or is it Terrell?
Sure.
Tammy Terrell, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how I remember it.
They, yeah. So they put out duets like Ain't No Mountain High Enough and You're All I Need to Get By. Fun fact that I learned is that after Tammy Terrell died, Marvin Gaye vowed never to sing with another person on stage again,
Wow.
which interestingly enough, while on this break from performing, he wanted to try his hand at professional football in the NFL.
Wow. He's a big man.
Yeah, I mean, he probably had the height. I believe he wanted to be a receiver, like a wide receiver. Yeah, he wanted to try out as a
Did
wide
you have
receiver for this.
any sports background before that? Like, did you play
I
in
mean,
school?
I didn't see much about that when I was researching. It was like this list of fun facts, and I was like, that's crazy. And it said that he wanted to try out as a wide receiver for the Detroit Lions at
Yeah,
31.
yeah, so that's past. Well, in those days, you could. Some people were crazy enough to play well to their late 30s, but it was uncommon.
31.
Anyway,
Yeah, that seems, I mean,
talk
I
about
guess now
confidence.
you're right. I guess nowadays it's still probably too old, but maybe back
Well, it's
then.
just the speed of the game now is different than it was back then,
Mm,
and the equipment you wear and the style of football, it's very different now. But back then,
yeah.
it was a lot more violent. It was a lot more violent.
Yeah.
Like wide
So
receivers were not whips, like you get clobbered.
yeah. So which is why the head coach John Smith Schmidt didn't want to put him in harm's way, and so he flat out refused to let Gay even try out.
Wow, that's
I mean,
unbelievable.
he was already famous,
He's
and
probably gonna hurt
like
his voice. I guess his
I don't know.
performance, drumming. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. So he said nope, you can't try out. So
Eh,
so
there's the Lions. He dodged a bullet.
right.
That joke.
Well, so okay, so Gay, who now as he started to become well known,
Hmm.
he added the E to his last name,
Okay.
and that was so Marvin Gaye Senior is actually Gay without an E. So
Hmm.
Marvin Gaye Junior added that E for a couple of reasons. One is he wanted to obviously distance himself from his father. He never
Hmm.
had a great relationship, so he wanted to make sure that he was gay with an E,
Hmm.
and then give also more clarity on his sexuality and that he was straight and not homosexual.
Okay. Well, that was that era of
Yeah,
uncertainty. I'm sure people probably teased them a lot.
yeah. I'm
So
sure it was a lot more important to establish that
yeah,
as, the image that you want than it is now, for sure.
it's
So,
interesting.
but I thought that was
All Gay
interesting,
meant was happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but he put the E on to make sure that that was a poignant fact on his name. So, his successes continue into the 70s, where
Yeah.
he's given more creative freedom. And of course, with all that was happening in the world at that time, he writes what's going on.
Yes. Yeah, I have a
And,
little bit of
kind of,
background on this too. Keep on. Sorry.
yeah. So you probably know then, of course, it has more of a political kind of
Oh,
route and
absolutely.
take on his messaging.
And I know from that same documentary, it was the Motown documentary. I can't remember the name of it. That there were a lot of artists of that era who kind of came from this bubblegum Motown pop thing that was kind of, it was connecting audiences, right? The white and the black audiences, and Latino and
Hmm.
Native American, but mostly white and black. But I remember at one point, I think it was post Vietnam, that they were like,
Hmm.
okay, we need to write more inspired revolutionary music. And
Hmm.
so artists like him, Stevie Wonder, they all
Hmm.
started to venture out. And that's actually, I think, when Marvin Gaye left Motown.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much along that, obviously Motown had a formula that, Marvin Gaye wanted to stray away from.
Hmm.
He moved out to LA, released Let's Get It On, basically spent most of the 70s touring and collaborating and producing. In 77, he hit number one again with Got to Give It Up, which we all know decades later turned into a big controversy when the Gay family and estate sued Pharrell Williams and
Yeah,
Robin Thicke for copyright infringement for
yeah,
blurred lines.
yeah.
So,
It's a tricky, it's a slippery slope. Um, Songs
totally.
have a lot of similarities, but
Yeah. I think
I
I
get
read somewhere that Robin Thicke didn't like wasn't part of the whole song building part of it. Like it mostly fell on Pharrell Williams, which I thought was kind of a bitch move, but whatever.
yeah, yeah. What's up, Robert? That's sweet. Just own it. Just own it. We as
Yeah.
songwriters, we sometimes don't know we're biting a song right away. But I've caught myself biting a song and going, all right, pump the brakes, and I stop and I start over. Not realizing
Yeah. I mean,
I've been like, working on a song for like a week or something. And then I listen to the hook and I'm like, oh man, did I just, damn it. I mean, I ripped off my own friends on accident. So, and I'm just like,
I
okay, can't do that. Can't get away with that. And even if I could get away with it, I wouldn't, you know, but
right.
I just own it, like obviously there's money involved.
Exactly.
I would own it.
I think that's where like I think, they people kind of lose sight of like maybe they should be like honest about it and like okay, yeah, like obviously it sounds similar. Maybe I didn't
There's,
mean to.
yeah, you could always be like, I didn't know, my first music teacher taught me that. You always play dumb the first time,
Yeah.
once at least. The thing about that song is the bass line, the walk up, the boom, 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 boom,
Hmm.
boom, 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 boom. It's just straight grabbing from the original. The organ is a very similar sound too, or the Wurlitzer, I think. It's a
Yeah.
Wurlitzer. So it's like there's just similarities. It's not exact, but
It's
it's
just
really close.
too similar.
Too
Yeah,
similar.
there's so many different
Had
elements
they
that make it.
taken out that walk, probably would have sounded very similar still, but not been completely like just ripping off my.
Yeah.
There are a
No,
lot of
I
people who
agree.
will
We'll
argue.
see.
I've had this argument on social media. No, it sounds nothing like it. You can't copyright a chord progression. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, there's probably obviously going to be some
I
people,
giggle
listeners
because
or
you and I
watchers
always
that.
laugh about Vanilla Ice trying to defend himself
It's
with
not,
what was
it's do 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 do.
yeah, with Queen. Queen's is ding 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 ding, and mine is ding 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 ding.
Yeah,
Like what the fuck?
totally different. Yes. He's right. Vanilla Ice is right. It's completely different.
Totally different, bro. And then he smiles with this. He smiles and
It's
shit.
so funny.
It's good
Yeah.
times.
So, and then in the end, just back to blurred lines, the courts did rule in favor of the Gay estate.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know. I don't remember, if there's another one. Isn't an Ed Sheeran song?
yeah,
Wasn't
they
there
lost
another
that one.
lawsuit?
They lost that one,
I was gonna say, I think they lost
which
that one, is what
kind
you
of
had
kind
told
of
me.
blows my mind. Kind of blows my mind. I don't think. I think when you hear the chord progression, it's pretty identical. But you know, it can go either way. I don't know. That's a tough one. I thought it was an absolute copy. And there's actually a clip of Ed Sheeran performing live from like when he released that song, and he medleys into Marvin Gaye's song, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Like he knew what he did.
So, yeah. I mean, you and I, probably could do a whole nother podcast on this particular
On
topic.
ripoffs.
So, but yeah, so back to Marvin's life. Like I said, we know the successes that Marvin Gaye has achieved and how truly talented he was. And eventually, Marvin leaves Motown, signs with Columbia, where he released his last album, Midnight Love, and the lead single, Sexual Healing.
That was his last album when he was alive, but they actually released two more posthumously, I think.
Okay.
The one that had symphony on it. I might be wrong.
Right.
I might be wrong.
Okay.
They just weren't properly mastered. So, and I know one came out about 6 years ago that was shelved by the record label because he died. And they're like, "How are we going to market this?" And they just
Right.
legal shit. So, if you ever have a chance, look up that album. It's pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah, I definitely will. Sexual Healing was deemed his comeback song and
Mm-hmm.
earned him 2 Grammys and an AMA award for Best Soul Single. So now, despite all of these successes, Marvin actually still battled a lot of his own demons. He
Sure.
was a drug user.
Mm-hmm.
He battled depression.
Yeah.
He obviously still had a terrible relationship with his father, and he was actually in financial crisis kind of towards that part of his career.
Right.
He wasn't doing so great. Apparently, he owed a lot of money to the IRS. So, because of that, this leads him to moving into his parents' house. Of course, moving in with them only obviously worsened the relationship between him and his dad. And Marvin found himself in a bad pattern of fighting with his dad, like a lot, like sometimes physical altercations, a lot of arguments, just not a good situation.
Yeah.
So
All that trauma, just years of abuse, probably just piled
yeah,
up.
and then having to go back and to the home life and
I
live
mean,
with your parents.
if you think about it, I think many adults will go through something similar in their life at one point. I mean, we've
Hmm.
had to move back with family a few times, and it's the hardest thing you can do. But when you have to come back to an abusive situation, man,
Right.
that's terrifying.
It's
And
rough. It's definitely.
on top of it all, I think of artists of that era, 60s, 70s, 80s, how how trapped they were into their contracts, into their financials, how uninformed they were on how to manage their money, how to manage their estate, how to manage their expenses.
Hmm. Hmm.
Blows my mind. And there's still a lot of artists today who make these same stupid mistakes, you know? So, I say
Yeah.
this for sports athletes too, as well. You've got these kids, I call them kids, but young men just turned 20, can't even drink alcohol yet legally. And they're out there just blowing money, doing crazy stuff, and there isn't enough support in the pro athlete world. It's starting to change a little bit to explain to these young men that you need to secure a future because this isn't forever. And
Right.
I think the same thing applies when you think of the music industry.
Hmm.
For me, it's a little different because I've had mild success and a whole bunch of failures. But for someone like Marvin Gaye, who probably went into this as in his 20s, probably,
Yeah. Hmm.
had a ton of success, but really didn't ever have to manage his day to day beyond showing up and performing and doing his job. And
Yeah.
then trying to, make that transition to from Motown to CBS, or was it CBS? Um, and that
Columbia. Yeah.
Columbia, sorry. Um, that must have been, probably the I mean, I don't know the exact situation, but if you start struggling financially because you went out on your own, it's because you made a shit ton of mistakes along the way and you didn't learn from the people who
Hmm.
mentored you. And
Yeah.
I feel like the music industry needs more mentorship. Absolutely
Definitely.
does.
Definitely. And when you think about it, like, people, when they're out there doing these things, they usually they want support. They need support. Marvin, obviously the home life was not a great support system for him, and I think that just
No, yeah. I mean,
kind of snowballed into the rest of
we just
his
watched
life.
the Whitney Houston biopic or whatever the movie.
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
Netflix or Paramount? I don't remember what we watched it.
I think it's
But
Netflix.
I don't remember who I was talking to the other day. It was one of my friends, but I was saying every um every pop star or everyone who made it really big had some kind of crazy um overly devoted parent in the background who pushed
Right.
them harder and harder, and it was equally positive and negative, right? Like there was a
Hmm.
healthy dose of you can do it, I'll take care of you, I got your back, I'm your manager now. And then there was of course the control piece of it and the
Right.
abuse. So you look at
Yeah.
Whitney Houston, she had her dad. You look at, was it Britney Spears, wasn't it her dad or something, her mom?
Her dad too, I think. Yeah. No, I think it's her dad.
There's a whole bunch. I mean, you can go down the list of successful artists who had crazy parents. The Jacksons,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So but on the flip
It's
side, when you're successful and you don't have that at home, you don't have a father who believes in you, loves you, that's
hmm
toxic, and you wear that forever. Obviously, that's why he had all that depression and frustration,
yeah. Yeah.
even with success.
Yeah, absolutely. So this brings us, of course, now to, what happens on April 1st, 1984,
A day before his birthday.
the day before his birthday, one day before Marvin's 45th birthday and my fifth birthday, coincidentally.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so from research and details that I gathered, oh, I just hit the mic, sorry. Uh, so Marvin Sr. was actually yelling and being abusive towards Alberta
Oh,
about something. I think it was like an issue with insurance papers or something.
mhm.
Definitely not something major that, especially for him to get so upset about, in my opinion. But Marvin Jr. obviously steps in to protect his mother, something that I believe he did probably most of his life, since Marvin Sr. was just an abusive person to the entire family. And reports of, there's been like reports, I guess, of him basically starving and beating his kids. It's just awful. So they get into an actual fist fight, and Marvin Jr. is pushing his father away and gets him out of the bedroom where it was all taking place. So his mother, Alberta, is trying to console Marvin Jr., and it seems as though things ended. However, Marvin Sr. comes back into the room with a loaded handgun that Marvin Jr. had bought for him as a gift and shoots Marvin Jr., ultimately killing him. Marvin Gaye Sr. was trying to claim self defense, like he shot him because Marvin Jr. was beating him up, so he feared for his life, kind of thing. But the evidence is telling a different story. It's, sounds like the altercation ended, but then, Marvin Sr. left to go get that handgun and, like shoot him, I guess. So Alberta claims that Marvin Sr. just stood there after shooting Jr. twice, kind of watching him scream in agony. During the court trial, it was discovered that Marvin Sr. had like a benign brain tumor, but for some reason, with his ailing health, and the fact that he was still claiming he was afraid of Marvin Jr. and kind of stuck to that story, that it was self defense, it seemed that the jury was taking it easy on him. And therefore, his original charge of first degree murder was lessened to voluntary manslaughter. And he was given a 6 year suspended sentence. And from what I gather on various law sites, a suspended sentence is like an alternative to imprisonment, which I just think is crazy. He basically got
It was son.
practically got off scot free for shooting his own son.
Unbelievable.
So
This is one of the greatest talents ever.
I mean, I don't know. Like, so there's some crazy theories and observations that I read, and I
Hmm.
was thinking about as I was reading reports and accounts, and it's probably important to know that Marvin Gaye actually he had attempted suicide 3 other times in his life, which I also thought was crazy. Like, I guess back in 1969, he tried to shoot himself, but Barry Gordy actually stopped him. Another time, he ingested like a full ounce of cocaine, and the week of his so the week of his death, actually, he also tried to jump out of a moving car, but only sustained minor injuries. So, with that in mind, after he was shot by his father,
Yeah.
this is also crazy. I read that it was alleged that Marvin's final words that he said to his brother Frankie, who I guess lived next door and basically held Marvin in his arms,
Yeah.
and his last words were, "I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I made him do it."
It's
How chilling is that? Like,
heartbreaking.
oh, so sad.
Heartbreaking. Man is in a lot of pain. A lot of men go through that. And go through a lot of pain and don't talk about it.
Like, a part of me almost thinks like, did he do all of that on purpose? Did he like try to get involved and break up that fight between his parents and try to take it a step further so his dad would do something like I just I was like totally mind boggled.
He may not have been in the best state of mind either. So,
Right.
yeah,
With all those personal demons and depression, and
yeah,
so I don't
alcoholism,
know.
all that ties in together. That's sad.
Isn't it?
It's sad.
So,
It's sad. Again,
he
I
was
am very attached to his words, his music, his style, but you don't know the man deep down. But I feel like I did because of his lyrics. Um,
right.
a lot of his music was romantic in nature. Maybe that was his escape.
Yeah. That's
But
a good point. Like, I mean, I also find it kind of I don't know if inspiring is the right word, but it's amazing to me that like after going through all of that he did, he was still able to write these incredible songs, these like songs that speak to people now to this very day, and it's a whole legacy. So
that's for me not that shocking because as songwriters we tend to write about the grass being greener. You know,
hmm
I think
hmm
anytime I've dealt with my own depression, I've written really happy music, and then anytime I've been really happy, I've reflected on the times I was depressed or down or frustrated or angry, stressed, whatever. So
yeah,
it's easy to reflect those things differently from inside. You know,
absolutely. Like, you are a musician at heart. Like, that's writing music, singing, picking up an instrument, like that's natural to you. To me, it's like I'm just a I'm just a listener. And seeing someone like Marvin Gaye, who like, I
yeah,
mean, I love his songs and stuff, and I would have just had no idea that he went through all of this. And like it's just a sad story, but
it,
it's
it's
also amazing.
it's amazing. It's also a lesson for young artists, young songwriters, young producers. You know, because success doesn't fix at the core what's broken. You know,
hmm
and
hmm
I temporarily, you know, blanket some of those issues for a while because you're going to have money to burn and women all around and all the things, drugs and all the things that can, make you feel like, hey, I've got everything I need in life, but you still haven't fixed what's going on deep down. And
Mhm.
that's whatever that trauma is. If you're not healing that trauma, that's going to come back. It will come back. It'll
Yeah.
always come back. So, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. Like with success, post success, right? That's what I was talking about earlier. Like you suddenly have all this money, then you blew it all. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? What happens
Mhm.
if your voice goes out? What happens if you lose an arm or whatever? Let's be all dramatic about it, but that can happen, and life can
Totally.
change. It's the same for athletes. It's the same for musicians.
Yeah.
Um, it can be taken away in a
Yeah.
moment. So heal yourself and get your mind right, and then help others do the same
Yep.
thing. But R.I.P. Marvin Gaye, that makes me sad.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's probably one takeaway we can take from Marvin's life. Learn and grow, and even for someone like him who went through such a childish traumatic I'm sorry, not childish, a traumatic childhood,
Yeah,
he still persevered and he still did things
he was
that,
absolutely a success.
yeah,
Platform of music and entertainment. He's a
yeah,
kind of a sex icon even, but he didn't succeed in life, obviously. Aside, his mental health was
yeah,
major setback for him, and I think that's unfortunate because he probably could have been helped. And as many artists who die that way tragically,
right,
whether it's murder.
yeah. Well, that is all I have.
My hero is dead.
Your hero is done.
All my
Spoiler
heroes.
alert.
Uh,
Any last words
just take
before
care of
we
yourselves.
log off?
Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Heal that inner
Absolutely.
trauma, whether it's childhood or PTSD. Get help. Men especially. Well, men and women, but I mean, men especially, because I think we are wired to suck it up, be a man, stop being a pussy, all that shit, and it hurts us over time, and we take it out on the wrong people, and we take it out on ourselves. Heal yourself.
Yeah.
Word.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's the
feel
story
very
that I
informed.
have for you. Yay! And now we share a birthday. We'll celebrate Marvin's birthday on my next birthday too together. Play Marvin all day.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. So long.
Talk to you later.